Welcome to Health Club with Julia. I'm your host, health coach, and registered dietitian, Julia Campagna. I'm on a mission to bridge the gap between looking your best and living your life to the fullest. After years of over dieting, struggling with disordered eating, and destroying my social life, I finally found how to reach my dream physique without sacrificing the things I love. Now I'm sharing all my strategies and education with you. We'll be talking all things health, including hormones, metabolism, and lifestyle to help you cut out the confusion and start living. So get cozy and join the club. Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. I am super excited. We have our special guest, Brianna Connel, here today. Hi, Bri.
Hi, how's it going?
I am very good. I am so excited to have you on. I feel like Bri is a genius when it comes to like overall
What?
fitness stuff. Like
Thank you.
seriously, all the things you put out is just like make sense. Yes.
Thank
So much
you.
like knowledge and like golden nuggets that you give people. And I love that you do question boxes all the time, and like your responses to the question boxes are always so on point. Even if
Thank
it's just
you.
like giving tough love and like I don't have a fucking answer for you. And like
Yeah.
you'll say that and
Then I'll
like
say that. Yeah,
yeah,
totally. Yeah.
I
Well,
love
thank you. I
that. That's
appreciate
like
that.
a no BS approach and just like straight to the point. I love it. But
Thank you.
so many golden nuggets for everybody. So I brought her on today to pick her brain about building muscle because, as I said, she's like a genius when it comes to building muscle. But before we dive into all that, I want to just have you talk about yourself, introduce yourself. Everyone, I want everybody to know who you are, what you do, all
Yeah.
the things. So if you want to just introduce you and
Yeah, absolutely. My name's Bree. As you already said, I am an online fitness nutrition coach. I've actually been in the space officially full time for 2 years now. Previously, I was actually in insurance for 6 years. So I worked the corporate life. I get that whole thing. And I feel like I really struggled most of my life with just like finding that balance in food and then also finding the balance with exercise. Cause I think I grew up of just like trying to eat as little as possible and then trying to work out as much as possible and just taking things to extremes. And so I feel like one of my big missions is, I mean, mindset is definitely one of them. That's a big passion of mine, but also just making things efficient. And that kind of ties in like when we're going to probably talk about muscle building and all that. It's like, I know there's a lot of people out there where they like love the gym and they love working out. That is awesome. I love that for you. That is not me. Like the gym is not my temple. The gym is not where I go to when I am sad and frustrated and angry. Like when I'm sad, frustrated, and angry, like I close the door and I turn off the lights and I cry. You know what I mean? But like the gym, so I want to get in, I want to do what's going to be efficient and then get out, you know? And again, I do enjoy going to the gym. Like I enjoy building muscle. I love doing that, but I take very much an approach of like, let's be efficient. Like let's use our time wisely. Let's not do junk volume. You've got a life to live and like, let's prioritize our health, but let's not make our entire identity. And you're that one friend at every dinner party that just can't stop talking about like, your workouts or whatever. Like let that be just a part of your life and how you support your life, but it doesn't need to be everything. And so I just try to find or help my clients through nutrition and training, just find that balance and just showing like it doesn't have to be this crazy whatever thing. And so through, I guess, my journey of the extremes, I really found balance. And then I help women do the same through, food and exercise. So hopefully that wasn't too long of an intro, but
oh, I
that was
think that was
important.
perfect.
Cool.
I think that was perfect. Yeah, I think that you do a really good job of portraying that as well. Like that you go in and you're efficient and like you do what you need to do and you're really good at doing what you need to do and then like getting out of there,
Thank
but
you.
like not as much of like the quote unquote, fitness influencer lifestyle where they're like 3 hours in the gym and like doing all the
Yeah.
like photos and like the glute kickbacks and like all the things. Like you're like,
Yeah.
I want this specific goal. And so I'm gonna go in there, I'm gonna work really fucking hard and
Yeah.
I'm gonna get it done and I'll see you there tomorrow. But I'm
Yep.
not like fluffy, all this other stuff. Like that's
Yeah.
again kind of going back to like a genius in fitness. Like you know what you need to do to hit your specific targets and goals, and like that's what you do. And
Yeah. Well, thank you.
yeah, you're welcome. So I'm gonna say this now. I'll also let you talk about this at the end too, but just throwing out like platforms so that people who are listening through
Yeah.
this can find you at Brianna Ray Fitness on Instagram. Also, side note, you're also like so funny too. I feel like again,
What? Thank
I
you.
feel like yeah,
Wow. You know what? Whenever I need my confidence boost, I'm just going to talk to you. Just throwing all these compliments. I love it.
literally. I feel like you've had even like a couple of reels go viral that are just like short little funny things too. So like I feel like you're not just again, fitness and like the gym isn't your whole personality and you show
Yeah.
that really well through your
Thank
page
you.
and like
just having like these short little like funny things too. It's great. I love your page. So definitely go give her a follow on Instagram. Obviously, I love it. I'm hyping it up.
Thank you.
But it's definitely worth it. And then also you have your own podcast too, the Damn Strong podcast, which I want
Yes.
you to talk about. We'll talk more about that at the end,
Okay.
giving like all details on that. But if you want more nuggets on like actual scientific, like in-depth fitness, all the things, knowledge, check her out there as well. But for today, we are going to be talking, like I said, about muscle building and kind of like a formula to follow if you're looking to build muscle. Because I mean, what girl does not want to grow their glutes? I feel like everybody
Mhm.
does. But a lot of the times, I feel like people go into the gym, they just either don't know what to do. And so they just kind of like go on different machines, or they're just like throwing pause at a wall, hoping that it sticks kind of thing.
Right.
Where I want this to be more like educational. Here's what you can do, certain takeaways, like things that you can start doing today if you actually want to start building muscle and actually see the results happen. So
Right.
that's what we're going to talk about. So let's dive in. Let's start with, I think, a semi-controversial topic, which is recomping and body recomposition, however you want to phrase that. But I think
Yeah.
it's a little bit of a controversial topic. Can you do it? Can you not do it? But I want your thoughts on that. And then also as well, like being in a deficit while building muscle. Can you do it? Should you do it? Thoughts on that as well.
Yeah. So I think the reason why recomp is controversial because I feel like everyone has their own kind of definition of it in a way. Like all recomp is just changing the ratio of body fat to muscle. So if you go into a cut and you lose body fat or go into calorie deficit, lose body fat, you're starting to recomp your body. And then maybe you go into calorie surplus and you build muscle. You've changed the ratio of your body fat to muscle. But what a lot of people mean when they say recomp, and I'm assuming this is kind of where you're going at, is like, can you lose fat and build muscle at the same time? And you absolutely can, 100%. Now, I mean, I'm trying to see like which avenue, because like it's such a big topic, but it's like,
Right.
yes, you can lose body fat and build muscle at the same time. The more advanced and more experience that you get, that becomes very, very difficult. So if you are never been super consistent in the gym, or maybe even train smart. See, this is the thing that people I don't think about is like, well, I'm advanced. I've been in the gym for 3 years. Yeah, but have you trained like strategically and really smart and put exercises together like well? Like I remember, I was like 3 years into my lifting weights and got more education on how to structure my workouts. And it's crazy the amount of how much quicker I saw results when I was actually doing it intelligently. And so just remember, if you're brand new to lifting weights, you can definitely build muscle in a deficit at maintenance and absolutely in a surplus maintenance, all that kind of stuff. So the reason why is your body is adapting very quickly to this gosh, what's the word? Starts with an S, stimulus.
Yeah.
And so you're going from zero to nothing. So your body's like, whoa, okay, we just picked up this like 25-pound dumbbell. We got to get some muscle going. And then over time, you have to push harder and harder and harder for the stimulus. And so does it slow down over time? Yes. That's why there's beginner gains. If you've ever heard that term, because that's really true, because there's the stimulus is 0 to 100, beginner gains come really fast. So if you see, I get questions a lot. People are like, well, do I have to go into a bulk to like build muscle? And if you're not familiar with what a bulk is, it's eating in a calorie surplus to build muscle the fastest and most optimally. No, you don't have to. You definitely can just be at be better to be at maintenance, but you definitely, if you were like, hey, I have 50 pounds to lose, like I don't want to go into a bulk and a calorie surplus and gain more body fat. Like that's not where I'm at in my journey. That's totally fine. Go into a deficit, train in the gym, and you can 100% build muscle. Just know as you get more advanced, recomping will get slower and slower and slower in the definition of doing the same things at the time. And eventually, if you want to do things faster, you're going to want to have specific stages that you go into. But again, I think people think that they're novice or they're not beginners a lot quick. Like you could technically still be kind of a beginner like 2-3 years in. I mean, if
Totally.
you look at like, not to get on like a bodybuilder, like I don't know, tangent or whatever, but like when you look at people who are competing in bodybuilding, they've been training that way for like 10 years. And it's like to put on that much muscle, it took them that long. So just know, like, if you're only 2-3 years, like you could probably still be benefiting from beginner gains. So, does that help answer the question? Okay.
That's great. And I think it's a really good point too to note, like, even if you're somebody who thinks that you're advanced, but you've only been in the gym for 2, 3 years, check in with how you're actually training. I remember like
Yeah.
even now I'll look back at videos where I'm like a solid 3 years in and I'm like, "What the hell am I doing?" Like,
Yeah.
number 1, the amount of exercises just in one day, why? Number 2, the form that I have, also why? Atrocious. And it's like, I was doing that for 3 years and I'm like, "Oh, I'm more advanced now." And it's like,
Yeah.
I had so much to learn still and so much to, like, grow with, and I think that's just a really good point to note, like, you
I
might.
think I think advanced is way more about like your knowledge of a skill
Mhm.
than it is about time put in, because it's like you can do something, I don't know, think of just any skill in life, like I don't know, like plumbing or something. Like you could be a plumber all day for 10 years but never seek to know more and not be that advanced in plumbing because you've never pushed your knowledge in it. You don't have, the only skill you have is to do this one type of task, and so maybe if you think of your advancement, being advanced in the gym, as more of like the knowledge and skill behind things, that probably gives a better like, okay, now I can actually decide if I'm a beginner or not, because it's like actually don't know how to do an RDL because I've just been doing it however I thought to do it for the last 3 years. And so I haven't been building a great muscle from that exercise because I'm not doing it very well. So
Right,
yeah.
exactly, and that is definitely a huge part of it as well, as not only just, like, training for X amount of time, but really being efficient in your training and really
Yes,
taking it very seriously, and I think that's
totally.
a very good point to note.
Yeah.
So this kinda, like, segues into my next question, which is, do you have to be in a surplus to build muscle? And you already kind of mentioned that, but what are the benefits of being in a surplus versus maybe being in a deficit while trying to build muscle?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm glad. I want to dig into this more because I think this is important to talk about because I do get that question. So the reason you go into a surplus is you want to build muscle in the most optimal way. When you are in a deficit, you're obviously, you have, less food, you're consuming less food than you are energy than you output. It's not the most optimal spot for muscle building. And so you just don't build it as fast. And the closer you get to maintenance, it gets faster. And then as you get into a surplus, it gets faster there. Now there's a certain part where it's like, you don't just eat 4,000 calories and all of a sudden you just like explode in muscle. Like there is a drop off at some point, but like when we give our body sufficient amount of energy to help not rest, because this is what we don't think about is like muscle is built when you're resting, not when you're in the gym. Like you go in the gym and you're like, oh, I'm building all this muscle. It's like, no, you're not. Actually, when you come home and you sleep and you rest, that's when you build muscle. And so what you're doing is by giving your body enough food, you're saying, hey, I am giving you the most optimal spot to build muscle. And so if your goal is like, hey, I want to build muscle as fast as possible, surplus. However, the quote unquote, I could just say downside of that is you do gain body fat with that. Not supposed to be at a really, really fast rate. Like you'll probably see people talk about like a dirty bulk or like clean bulks. And really dirty versus clean is really just about people will just go into an excessive calorie surplus and they'll put on like 30 pounds in like 6 months. That is a lot of body fat very fast. I just did a bulk this past year. I put on 12 pounds over a year. Like it wasn't a crazy amount of weight that I put on. And then I did a cut, trimmed that. So you're looking to gain, anywhere from like, I guess you could say like half a pound to a pound per month is like a nice rate of weight gain. And we could go that whole down. And I'm getting off topic, but like, so if you want to do a surplus, that's why you would do it. And so you have to look at your situation, be like, okay, like, am I in a spot where that's where I really want to do it? And again, I kind of talked earlier of like, if you have 50 pounds to lose, you probably don't want to gain more body fat. So you know what? Go into a deficit. You can totally build muscle. Do you have to go into a surplus to build muscle? No, you don't. You can totally build muscle in a deficit. And then once you've lost the body fat you want to lose, you're going to go to maintenance. You'll build muscle even better at maintenance. And then if you get to that point in your life where you're like, you know what, putting on some body fat, like 12 pounds over the course of a year, or you don't even do a full year, you could do 6 months. 6 pounds over the course of 6 months doesn't scare you. Go for it. Do that. Put on more muscle. I think what happens though is a lot of times online coaches will scare people away from a bulk because they're like, well, if you're not going to do 6 months to a year, like it's not even worth it. Like you're just wasting your time. Like,
Mhm. Yeah.
sure, there's some truth. Like you want to be in a surplus long enough to actually see the results happen. Like if you're just dipping your toe, doing a surplus for like 2 weeks, 4 weeks, you're just switching back and forth so often. Like, yes, commit to time. However, if you just dipping your toe and being, okay, I'm going to do a surplus for 1 month and just see how it goes for my mental health. Awesome. Like if you need to take baby steps, do it. But all that to say, you don't ever have to go in a surplus if you don't want to in your life. But definitely being at maintenance will be a much better spot to build muscle. I know I'm like answering all these different questions, but to answer that question, no, you definitely don't have to be in a surplus to build muscle. But if you get to a point in your life, you're like, hey, muscle building is really important. I'm tired. I don't want it to take 3 more years. I'd rather just do it in a year and put on the muscle that I want. That's going to be an optimal place to go.
Yeah, and I think again, that's a really good point is just kind of reflecting on what your current goals are and where you're at within your journey as well. And I know for me, again, like when I was 3 years into my journey and I thought that I was advanced and like all this stuff, and I would hear on social media all the time like surplus, build muscle, maintenance, you're just maintaining. And if you want to go into fat loss, you do a deficit. And like that
Right.
was like the end all be all. And that's what I thought. And I feel like people still kind of think that way that like, okay, I
Mm-hmm.
want to build muscle, like I have to go into a surplus, but then they kind of shy away from it because of other reasons, which we'll talk
Yeah.
about in a little bit. But they kind of shy away from it because of all these other things when it's like, you don't necessarily have to do that, and I think
Right.
it's kind of a refresher for some people to hear like, "Okay, I can still build muscle without gaining a whole bunch of body fat or,
Totally.
like, going into a really big surplus," and I think it just is kind of comforting for some people to hear that, like,
Yeah.
you're able to do that without having all of these other things happen, and it's just a
Yeah.
lot more insight on, you know what were you gonna say?
No, I was just gonna say, but I think it's also like interesting to think like one, you never have to do a surplus if you don't want to ever in your life. That's
Right.
awesome. But also, why are you afraid of doing a surplus? Like, why does putting on 3 pounds, like if you did a surplus for 3 months, why does putting on 3 pounds of body fat matter to you so much? Why is that so scary for you? The pro of putting on muscle at the same time. So again, there is, I mean, social media, just our culture in general, really like gaining body fat is scary. And I totally understand that. But like if you're in a spot where it's like your healthy body fat level, you're active, you eat your fruits and veggies, like all of these things, like maybe the next part of your and like you desire more muscle and you're going to continue to build muscle. And like you want that, like I don't know. That's something just a mindset challenge to have is like, okay, I don't have to go to surplus. Like Bree said, like, I don't have to do this. I could do maintenance for the rest of my life and just enjoy and whatever. But like, why am I so scared to do 3 months, go into a surplus, put on 3 pounds of body fat? Like you're not really going to even notice the 3 pounds of body fat. And you're going to have a lot of fun eating that extra food too. And again, yeah, I like people to be at least 6 months to a year. But wow, what like a cool mindset challenge to win for you to go into surplus for 3 months, be like, I did it. Like I pushed past the stigma of all this. I challenged my mind. So I don't know. I just think there's besides building muscle, because of our culture, I think there's a lot of mindset benefits to pushing yourself that way.
Yeah, for sure. There's a ton. And when you do complete that bulk, you're like, and you get to that point where you're like, wow, I did this. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like that gives, or for me at least, gave me so much more confidence when I was at that point. Like, when I did a bulk in the past and like I reached that point, I was like, wow, like I did
Yeah.
this. I know I can do like so much more now than like
Totally.
without fearing anything else. And I definitely want to dive into that in a little bit about, what you have to say about being in a surplus and gaining weight and all of that. So
Yeah.
we'll talk about that. But I definitely agree that there's a lot of other kind of benefits than just like building muscle in a
Yes.
surplus for
Totally.
sure.
Totally.
But I want to talk about a little bit of logistics with actual training for
Yeah.
now. And a question that I think is pretty common with trying to build muscle as well. And like this confusion around what do I do is low weight, higher or lower reps, higher weight, higher reps, lower weight. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
I know what you're saying. I think the audience
You
does
know.
too. And I was honestly, every time you said, I was like, wait, is that the right way? But we all get what you're trying to say. Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
you know. Um, yeah, so what is better? Is there one way that you should be doing it? Do you do both? Like what the heck do you do within like your actual like training program?
Yeah. So I'm going to just touch back on like which one is like better. Cause that's always the question I get. They're like, should I do this or that and all that? And it's, if we are, the research shows that if we are sub 30 reps, you are going to be building muscle. So whether you are doing 8 reps or you decide to do 25 reps, as long as you're pushing yourself close to failure. And what that by that means is that you're pushing yourself. Failure would be like you're curling the dumbbell and you curl the dumbbell till you physically can't lift it up with good form, obviously. That would be failure. So getting at least close to that, whether you do 8 reps or 25, you're going to build muscle. However, there are some limiting factors to doing like 25 reps, right? If you do 25 reps of walking lunges each leg, you are going to get tired because of the cardio of that before you actually exhaust the muscle. It's not bad to do 25 reps. You can do like 25 reps of bicep curls. You're not going to get exhausted cardiovascularly. It's going to take a lot of time to get to 25 reps, but there's some limiting factors with doing the higher reps. One being cardio based, like you're doing 25 squats. Again, you're probably gonna be winded before your glutes are actually exhausted. So you probably have to stop before 25 reps because you're trying to catch your breath. And then the other downside to higher reps is it just takes more time. Like you're telling me I could pick a heavier weight and do 8 reps, or I could pick a lighter weight and do 25, which is technically 3 times the amount of time. So I'm going to cut my workouts into thirds and I'm going to do 8 reps instead. So it's not that doing higher reps does not give you a more toned, longer, leaner look. That is a complete myth. It's about building muscle. You either make a muscle bigger or you make it smaller. That's it. You can't tone it. You can't lengthen it. Your muscles are inserted into spots. You can't change the length of them. So whichever one you want to do, you can technically choose, but I always err on the side of lower. One, so we can get you stronger. And then 2, I don't want to take up more time in the gym than I have to. So let's stay on the lower end so that way we can be more efficient with our training. I know you asked another question though, but when I was diving into that, did I answer that question or no?
I think you answered all of that, but
Okay.
I do have a
Okay.
side question with that
Yeah.
too. And like this whole concept of females getting quote unquote bulky when they try to go heavier. So you just kind of reminded me of that when you're saying, and again, I think this is refreshing to hear, like, you don't have to do 25 reps.
Yeah.
You can stick with 8 and that's fine. But for the people that are like, ooh, but if I do heavier weight and I do lower reps, I'm gonna get bulky.
Yeah.
You know, what are your
Yeah.
thoughts kind of on that
Yeah.
topic?
There's the word bulky, the word tone, they're the same exact word. The only difference is one just has more muscle and takes longer to achieve, and that's bulky. So the difference between, I know everyone can picture in their head, picture like a toned woman in your head and picture like a bulky woman in your head. The meaning of tone and the meaning of bulky just means that you have a lot of muscle with or you have more muscle, your ratio of body fat to muscle. You have a higher ratio of fat body. Oh my gosh, I can't talk. Muscle to body fat. Can I get that out? Jesus. Um, and so basically when you're bulky, you just have bigger muscles and it gives you that bigger look, but you're still low in body fat. When you're toned, you have muscles that you can see because you are lower in body fat. And the only difference between these two women that you're picturing in your head is one probably went through more surpluses and bulks actually because it takes a long time to build that much muscle to actually look bulky. So if it's going to take a long time, you might as well do it very, very optimally. So they'll do bulks a lot. And then patience. It takes a lot of time to build that much muscle. So whether you're doing 8 reps or 25 is not going to change, because again, all you can do with the muscle is make it bigger or smaller. So the same, if you want to get bulky, you want to get toned, you do the exact same type of training. You just stop trying to build. Like if you get to a point, you're like, okay, well, I'm as big as I want to be muscularly. Okay, cool. Then you just start lifting to maintain. You just stop. But if you're wanting to lift to get bulky, you just keep going. That's the only difference. But everyone gets so confused. They're thinking like higher weight makes it so that I don't even get like it makes sense, but it doesn't. Why would muscle be like long? Like it's long, but I think because it's smaller, like when something gets bigger, it can look stockier. And so I think that's where that long and lean kind of comes from. You build a muscle, you make it bigger or smaller. That is it. You cannot tone it. You cannot long it, lean it. Muscle. This is what's so weird when people are like, oh, let's build lean muscle. What muscle is already lean? Like the definition of lean is to have like very minimal body fat, right? When you buy like lean turkey meat or like lean beef, it's called lean beef because it's very low in body fat. Muscle is pure, like it doesn't have body fat in it. So you're saying you're building lean, long muscle. The muscle is already lean because it doesn't have body fat in it. You know what I mean? Like it's such a weird phrase of words that we've come up with in society. I get it, but I'm also like here to just tell everyone, like, understand how silly that phrase is, you know?
Yeah, and thank you for that. And I think that a lot of women fear getting bulky when, as you just explained, like it takes a lot of time to get to that level of muscle where you would feel a little bit more stocky or a little bit more
Yeah.
muscular. And like if you're new and you haven't really tried to build muscle and then you're like, I want to build muscle, but I don't want to get bulky, try to build muscle. You're not going to get to this like bulky
Yeah.
stage right away. Like you're totally fine. So I
Yeah.
totally appreciate the like upfront honesty that it sounds.
Well, And it's like I mean, you've probably seen this on social media. I don't know who in the audience that's listening hasn't, but it's like, you don't drive a car and then fear you're become you're a race car driver. You do the same things to become a race car driver. You learn the skill better, you train better, you do it for longer, right?
Yep.
But you're not worried that you're going to become a race car driver. You don't brush your teeth and worried you become a dentist. You don't cook and worried you become a chef.
Right.
All of them require for you to go from just someone who cooks to become a chef. You just continue to cook longer and you learn about things more and you optimize and all that kind of stuff. So it's just, again, something to hopefully kind of hit home with that analogy.
Yeah, I think that's an amazing analogy. And I think that's one that a lot of people can resonate with and actually like visualize and be like, oh yeah, that makes more sense than me saying I'm going to get bulky. Like, because like you said, it makes sense, but it doesn't make sense and it sounds ridiculous. And then if you give like real life examples, it totally it makes sense. That's a amazing analogy.
Yeah. Well, let's even play devil's advocate. Let's just say, sure, you get bulky. You know what I mean? You can atrophy the muscle. First of all, it doesn't even happen overnight. So if you were like, oh, I'm getting a little big, you would notice that before you got, like, if you're like, oh, my shoulders are looking bigger than I want them to be, you would notice that before they were too big because muscle growth happens I wish muscle growth happened faster, but like it's painfully slow. And on top of that, but again, playing devil's advocate, let's just say you get your shoulders to a size that you don't like. Stop working at your shoulders, let the muscle start to atrophy. And when it gets to the size that you want, okay, cool. Go back to lifting shoulders and just do like a maintenance volume of lifting for your shoulders. It's not in the world. Like you can undo this if you somehow, I bet you no one in the history of humankind has ever accidentally gotten too big of like shoulders or quads. Like I think in our minds, as women, we are fearful of getting bulky. Like I've had clients before where they started with me in lifting and like 3 weeks in, they're like, I think my shoulder's getting a little big. I'm like, sweetie, you have not even put on enough muscle since we started. And obviously very kind. Like I understand why that client thinks that, but I have to explain it. I'm like, I understand that. And I can totally honor that. We can compromise. We could take out some shoulder volume if you want, but just so you know, you haven't in 3 weeks, you haven't built enough muscle to actually see a physical change, So
yeah, I've totally had that experience as well. And it's like, all right, well, let's talk about this. Let's dissect how this actually works because it's a lot of that mentality that we fear around these things and we kind of add more fear than is actually there. So it's definitely a lot of the mindset part of it as well. But hopefully that was helpful for anybody that does have that fear around that. But let's dive more into like depths of training. So can you give some focuses for training specifically to optimize muscle building, whether that's compounds or when do you do compounds, isolation, just like how structuring a workout and like what should you actually prioritize in your training?
Yeah, honestly, I think I'll take this to like a different part because it's like, and I can talk about structuring totally, but I think I think there's some missing pieces that women struggle with in the gym before even going into how you're structuring your workout. Are there ways to structure it to be more optimized? Yes. But I think one, women are doing way too much volume. They're doing way too many exercises and we can take that down. And I'll go into the reason why that can be an issue. And then two, you're not working out intense enough. The reason why you're able to do 10 exercises is because you're not taking the intensity high enough in your other exercises. So before you even worry about doing like this exercise before this one, or maybe doing compounds before accessories or flip-flopping that or whatever, let's lower your volume, prioritize recovery so you actually can recover and then build the muscle. Oh crap. And I forgot and then up the intensity and actually work harder. So my biggest thing is if you're currently working out now, and this is a very general guideline, again, depending on your goals, but I would say keep your workouts to 4 to 6 exercises. 4 for probably lower body, because you really only got I'm excluding calves, sadly here, but like we really got like your butt, your hamstrings, your quads. Like you got three muscles. When it comes to your upper body, you've got your biceps, your triceps, your rear delts, your anterior delts, your medial delts, your back, your lats. Like there's so many muscles. And so you could do more so 6 exercises on, and then bicep. Did I say biceps? I don't know. You guys get what I'm saying. So you can do a little bit more like 5 to 6 with your upper body. And then I would do honestly no more than 4 exercises for lower body. You really probably don't need more than that. I would start there. I would lower your volume. I made a friend in the gym today. It was very nice. She was showing me her workout and she's like, how does this look? I was like, she was doing 9 different exercises. I was like, okay, we need to half all of this right away. Like you're doing way too much volume that you most likely aren't recovering from. And then once we lower that volume, now I can kind of transition. We need to up the intensity. You need to be working so much harder in the gym. And I'm not going to get into like RPE or RIR if that's something people are interested in. We could talk about that maybe that later, but if you're interested in that, you can Google it. It's a pretty standard thing that you can kind of read something about, but you should be pushing yourself close to failure. And what I kind of said earlier, what that means is, within like close to failure, I'd say within like where you leave maybe like 3 in the tank at most. And so a failure is you can't lift, you're doing bicep curls, and failure means that you can't do another curl. Then leaving like 1 or 2 in the tank means that you get to a point where like, I maybe got 1 or 2 left in me until I'm absolutely like, I can't lift up the dumbbell anymore.
Right.
You should be training somewhere within that like 3-ish in the tank to like 0 or like failure in the tank all the time, somewhere in there. We don't have to go to complete failure, but at least getting close to failure. And I know a lot of people are like, well, yeah, I do get close to failure. The burn that you feel in your glutes, that's not what I'm talking about. Your quads can be on fire, but you can still get up 4 more reps.
Mm-hmm.
Been there, done that. You know what I mean? Like we've lived that out. And so I always like to give people homework with this. The next time you're in the gym, pick up the weight that you normally do. And don't worry about the reps. Don't worry about if it's 8 to 12 or if you program for yourself 20 reps. I just want you to curl that dumbbell till you physically cannot lift it anymore. And do stuff that's really safe. Like do bicep curls, do leg curls, do leg extensions, like honestly, leg press. There's safety bars. Like there's ways to do these safe. And I just want you to go till you can't do it anymore. If you are, again, if your rep range is like 12 reps or 8 to 12, and you take what I said and you get 25 reps, you've been massively underlifting. And that right there, just that alone, upping your intensity and taking down your volume, you will see much better growth overall. Even though we haven't optimized your training yet, just those 2 things alone, you could have the most optimized training ever. And if you're not pushing yourself hard enough, you're not going to build muscle. If you're not resting and recovering from the volume, you're massively slowing down your progress. So let's start there. And then once you get to there, then you can optimize your programming. I'd say kind of what I was saying earlier, like 4 to 6 exercises per workout, upper, lower. You can mix it. You don't have to do a bro. You can do a bro split. You don't have to. It's much more about total volume over the course of a week. So if you like the bro split, do the bro split. If you don't like it, don't do it. You could do a mixed day of like quads, hamstrings, and glutes if you want. And then how I would talk about structuring it. Typically, I think there's multiple ways to do it, but I think a very easy way to explain people is like start with your big lifts where you have like the most exercise, like your compounds, just because that takes a lot of energy out of you. There's nothing wrong with doing compounds at the end of your workouts. You totally can. But I would prioritize either your big lifts or the lifts that are most important to you. If you're like, I really want to make progress on lateral raises this year, start with lateral raises. Even though it's not technically a compound, start with those. And then from there, you can add in like your isolation or accessory work. There's so much more I can go into with like programming because again, there's so many different ways to do it. But I think that's a good basis of like start with either your compounds or what's most important. And then you can tag on things in addition. Again, 4 to 6 exercises, upper and lower is plenty of volume for you. So.
And I love that you touched on the volume and intensity because you can have the like most perfect laid out workout, but if you are not pushing yourself, like you said, you're still not going to see that result.
Yeah.
And it is so common that people are like, oh, that workout was so hard. And it's like you said, it burns.
Or you
but
sweat.
You have so much, or you sweat.
Yeah.
But you have so much more that you could do. And you're just like selling yourself short on what your potential is.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you do. I do. We get client videos and they're like, oh, here's my workout. And I'm like, no, honey, you can do more. I know that you can. And then the next week they'll do more and they're like, oh my God, you're right. I'm like,
yeah.
Trust yourself, push yourself and know that you're holding yourself back way faster than your body is able to give out. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a major, major, major key that you had mentioned with building muscle and like actually seeing that physical result.
Yeah. And I think the reason why women tack on so much volume is because they're not pushing it. Like if you're not going to go really intense, you do have to do more volume, but then you have the opposite of like, you could be doing too much volume and then you don't have good recovery. And so it's like, you could actually go from 3 glute days to 2 glute, or just say lower body, 3 lower body days to 2, if you actually up the intensity more. And then you get this whole extra day of like, oh my gosh, I can work. Like I stopped working out 5 times a week, I think in like 2020. I've only worked out 4 days a week and I've seen so much more. That was when I really started to optimize my training. I've seen so much more progress through optimizing my training, pushing myself harder. I keep forgetting the second one that I keep talking about.
Intensity.
I said intensity. Why am I not?
Volume?
I guess recovery.
Recovery?
Volume. You said volume.
Yeah.
Lowering my volume,
Yeah, that's it.
focusing on recovery, and then pushing intensity. I've seen so much more growth in the last like 3 years than I did. I started doing weights in 2012. It has been almost 11 years, and I've seen more progress in 3 years, really kind of 4-3, than I did the last like 6, because I messed around and I messed around. I say that like I was stupid. I didn't know any better. You know what I mean? I really didn't. I just did what I saw on Instagram. I did the flashy things, but it's just like I do so much less now and I get so much more out of it. It's a quality over quantity thing. And I think everyone has a really hard time with seeing the value of that.
Yes, absolutely. I think that is part of that mental game too, a ton, because they think that they have to do so much more to see so much more progress when you don't. And I'm the same way as you. I started doing 4 days a week in 2021 or early 2022, and I have not gone back to 5 days. I actually love my rest days now. Like I
Love,
thrive off of my rest
yes.
days. And a lot of people are like, I can't take a rest day, or like I need to go to the gym. And it's like you said, you are building muscle during your resting periods. And if
Yes.
you are training to the intensity that you should be and you're pushing yourself really hard, you need those extra rest days. Like
Yeah.
I want more rest days. Like, I'm just like, I love
Well,
them.
and I don't know if you felt this way, but it kind of gave me my life back a little bit. Like
Yeah.
something about when you do 5 days, you can't miss, like if you miss a day, it is scrambling to figure out how to fit it in, because you have to go Monday through Friday. And if for any reason you have plans on Saturday or Sunday and you can't fit it in, like you're done. Like there's no way to move it around. But doing 4 days, oh my gosh, the flexibility on top of that, I just really felt, I know it sounds so dramatic because it's one workout day, but if you're currently doing 5, like switch to 4. And honestly, even if it was slower if it was slower muscle growth, I probably would take it, because I feel like it has given me this flexibility where like I can miss my workout on Monday. I don't have to work out on Monday or Tuesday. I can start working out on Wednesday, be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And it's like, and then I still get a rest day on Sunday, even though I missed 2 days at the beginning of the week, which is just mind blowing.
It
So,
is.
you know,
I love like even over the last couple of weeks with like the holidays, like I had to miss some of my like usual workout days. I'm just like, oh, I'll throw it in X day. Like I have so much
yeah.
more flexibility to move it around. And I even am like, if I'm really sore one day, instead of being like, I have to push through this and get to the gym, I'll be like, oh, you know what? I'm waking up, I'm tired, I
Exactly.
don't feel it today. I'm gonna go tomorrow. Like,
Yeah.
even if you're just like not in the mood or like not
Or
feeling it, or
something
you
comes up, or like
right.
some crisis with your business and like taxes or whatever. You're like, crap, I need this day to do this.
Yeah.
You're not freaked out about it because you're like, it's easy. I can just move it
Right.
around.
Right.
No big deal.
So much
Yeah.
easier.
I love
It's
it
so
so
if that's
much.
anybody who's like on the verge of like, I need more rest days or like, what the hell do I do? We're here to advocate for 4 days
Yeah.
a
If you
week.
can't tell with how excited we both got and passionate, oh, life changing. I
It
love it
is,
so much.
it's the best split.
It
It's the
is.
greatest.
It
Definitely do
is.
that.
Yes.
But I have a few, well, one more question and then I want to go into like some other like more personal tip kind of style stuff. But
Okay.
in terms of cardio, because this is another big one, like what do I do? I want to build muscle, but I need to like also lose fat. So I have to do cardio, and like just this big topic of cardio around building muscle. What are your thoughts on doing cardio while trying to build muscle?
I think it depends what your goal is. If you're just like, I just want to be a healthy person with a good cardiovascular system, I think it's great. Go do cardio. Like it's not going to kill your gains. I think if you're like, I'm going to train for an ultra marathon, okay, let's talk. Like you have to be able to recover. And for any working out, for any adaptation, you have to be able to recover. So if you want to go do an ultra marathon, you need to be able to recover. Now, can you weightlift to support your ultra marathon? Absolutely. But we got to talk about volume. You know what I mean? We need to adjust that. So I am totally pro doing cardio or any other form of exercise along with it. And I tell all my clients to do like Pilates or yoga or anything. We just have to make sure that you can recover from it. That is the number one. And there might be some people where it's like, you know what? Weightlifting 2 times a week and then training for an ultra marathon, you can't recover for it. So guess what? You're going to have to pick. I'm sorry, but like if you want to do which one's more important to you? Your ultra marathon? Awesome. Then let's prioritize the adaptations to that. You can come back to strength training when you come back. And we move on. So I think we always want to have like everything. And for the most part, you kind of can, like you can do both, but like there are some situations where you're going to have to pick because you can't recover from it. So
Yeah.
very pro cardio, just based on your goals,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think that again, when I was like first starting out, it was like no cardio during muscle growth because that's going to kill your
Right.
muscle gains. And I love to add in some form of extra movement, extra cardio for my clients that are building muscle too, just for, like you said, that cardiovascular health. It's nothing
Yeah.
crazy if they
Yeah.
really just want to focus on muscle building. But I also think that the extreme on the other end of absolutely do no cardio because you're going to kill your muscle gains is not
Yeah.
totally accurate as
No,
well.
definitely not. Yeah. That's a myth. Like you can absolutely do cardio and not kill your gains and you'll be just fine.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to just because I mean, I've been through a surplus and a bulk and trying to build muscle. You've been through that. You've already mentioned that on this podcast that also been through that. So I want to go back to this kind of like mindset with a
Yeah.
surplus and kind of dive into that a little bit more. So what tips do you have for people who are looking to build muscle or maybe going into a surplus, but they also do fear that kind of body image side of it?
Yeah, I think the first one is just like know that you can do a bulk and not gain 30 pounds in like 30 days. Like there is a way to make it. So it's like the goal is to build muscle as optimally as possible by putting on the least amount of body fat. Like that's the sweet spot you want to be. And so typically I'd say if you know where your maintenance calories are, increasing them anywhere, I'd say typically like I like to tell people like 150, 200, like play around with that, see how it goes. And just ride off from there. And my personal goal was to gain about a pound of body fat per month. That was really nice. It was like a quarter pound per week. But I guess that's my one thing to start is like, I think the media has made them look really scary. Like you have to put on all this body fat. So just know that going into it, that you don't have to put on all this body fat. Again, you could do a surplus for 6 months, put on 6 pounds of body fat, and then after that, go into a calorie deficit for 6 weeks, right? 6 months versus 6 weeks, lose that 6 pounds of body fat. Actually, it'll be more. If you lost 6 pounds, it's more body fat because you put on muscle during that time, right? That 6 pounds is fat with body muscle.
Yeah.
Or with muscle. I said body muscle. I don't know why. And so if you lost 6 pounds, you actually probably got a little bit leaner because you lost 6 pounds of body fat and then kept that muscle. And so it's probably like you actually end up leaner. I think the other thing to kind of talk about, and I don't know, just say like the people just knowing what going into it, or just like,
Yeah, just like people who want to go into it, but they're like afraid to go into it
yeah,
because of their body changing and maybe gaining weight and kind of just like that mindset around it.
yeah. I think the other thing to think about if you have a fear of going into it is like look at all the positives that are going to come out of it. It's like
Yeah.
such a short-term thing for such a long-term benefit.
Yeah.
And then I think the other positive thing, like if you're nervous, like it's just instead of seeing a surplus, I think it's just a simple mindset switch. Instead of seeing a surplus as, oh my gosh, I'm going to gain body fat, you're putting your body in the most optimal way to build muscle. People make jokes all the time on my like comments on my page. They'll be like, oh, I've been in a surplus for the last 10 years. I'm like, or, whatever. I'm like, no, you just been in the most optimal muscle building phase for the last 10 years. Just that simple reframe of like, I'm not trying to get, for lack of a better way to say this, like, I'm not trying to get fat in a surplus. giving my body an optimal place to build muscle. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm putting myself in. And so I think making that switch makes it a little bit less scary of like, okay, I'm dedicating the next 6 months to gaining body fat. No, you're not. You're dedicating the next 6 months to building muscle as optimally as possible. And just don't even think about the fat gain part. Does it come along with it? Sure. But like, again, the goal is to keep it at minimal. So those are kind of like the few that pop up off the top of my head of like, if you are nervous going into it.
Yeah, I think those are great. And I think just like you said, knowing the benefits of it, it's a short term, like not even sacrifice. That's not even the word because you're not sacrificing anything. I guess
Yeah.
sacrificing less body fat, maybe, yeah, but it's so
But is that even a
short-term for
sacrifice? You know what I
right.
mean? Like I love that you said that because you're like, you're sacrificing. Like, what are you like? You're sacrificing
Yeah.
putting on body fat. What? Like, that's not really a sacrifice. Like, again, 6 pounds in 6 months. Like, again, if you could be 8 pounds, I don't want to like sugarcoat it for anyone. It could be 10 pounds, but like, is that really sacrifice? Usually means like you're trading off something and making like for a not worser outcome. That's not what I want to say, but like for something that's negative. And it's like, there's not really that much negative about gaining 6 pounds of body fat, like,
Yeah.
I
I
don't
know.
know.
I
Like you said
think
that.
yeah, I think people think that it's really negative when it's not. And all the benefits that come with that so outweigh you gaining some body fat along that process. And I think
Yeah.
that's just a major focus is like the benefits I'm going to get from this
Yeah.
are so great that I shouldn't fear this. And I know that that's easier said than done for a lot of people. And like,
Totally.
it's Yeah. Everything that we're saying.
Yeah. And I want to like just reiterate that. Like, I totally get what I'm saying right now is so much easier said than done. I understand, like, I'm in a different place in my journey where like, I'm really confident in going to a bulk, but like, I also was very much challenged in my bulk. Like, I put all of my weight and not all of it, but most of my weight in my lower body. I carry a lot of my face. I had to watch my face, not have like as a chiseled jawline. And then I had to watch, my cellulite. I get more and more cellulite on my legs. And like, I'm already very insecure about my legs. I've built up so much better confidence with my legs, and how I built confidence in my legs was by wearing shorts and putting myself in an uncomfortable situation. And how I've grown more love for my legs is like going to a surplus, letting the cellulite, get a little bit more and more because I'm putting on body fat, and still loving like, wow, these legs squat, 200 pounds. These legs are leg pressing 300 pounds. Like, why am I so upset about the cellulite that's coming in? Like, it's so cool how amazing they are. And then I get to go into a cut. I got to reveal like all the muscle I built. I was like, wow, these quads are so powerful. And then it's just like, you get this whole new appreciation for your body. Like, I always tell people, like, if you can't learn to love your body in the current state that it's at, going into a cut or changing something about it won't fix it. Building the muscle won't fix it. Losing body fat won't fix it. Like, just if I hated my legs through the surplus and then went to a cut, I would still find things to hate about them, even though they're the leanest that they've ever been. I can see my quad, never been able to see my quad lines. I can see my quad lines now. I could still find things to pick apart about it. So it's really important to find ways to like really embrace where your body is now.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And I'm going to end that question on that note because I think that's so, so important and just very well said. That's a huge part of that. And then the last thing I want to just ask about is somebody who is new, who wants to build muscle, but is kind of a newbie. What tips do you have for them on starting this journey of building muscle?
That is a very wide loaded question. So I guess the reason why I thought that right when you said it, just to kind of give people some insight, is like, okay, well, are you scared of going to the gym? If you are, do it at home. Do you not know what to do at home? I mean, there's a bunch of amazing programs that can join on that, a lot of coaches online give you, but like, if you can't afford that, pull up stuff on YouTube. Like, yeah, it's not going to be the most optimal, best stuff, but you know what? That's not our problem right now. Our problem is just getting you started. So let's go over that hump. And then once you're doing really well at home and you feel confident, let's take the exact workouts you're doing at home and then move those to the gym. And if you need to go in the little private studio, grab the dumbbells, do a shy girl dumbbell workout in the corner. Awesome. You've built up confidence in the corner. Now you get to venture out into like the wild and like where people are like actually there. And then you know what? You're still going to do the same exact workout. You're going to grab the dumbbells, but you're just going to do it in front of other people. And then once you feel comfortable in front of other people, then you're going to venture into other, I mean, I know I'm talking very big baby steps, but a lot of people need to go through that.
Yeah.
And then once you're comfortable with just doing that same workout that you've been doing for the last 6 months, start doing some new things. Maybe look at a machine, ask someone at the gym, like, hey, how does this work? Or like go up to an employee. That's what they're there for. They should be able to help you with that. Or a trainer would be more than happy for you to say, hey, I've never used a leg extension machine. Can you show me how it works? And then from there, you just build up. And then once you're like building that consistency, okay, maybe then we start learning about intensity and pushing ourselves hard. Okay, now we've done that. Then, we look at volume. I think a lot of times if we're not doing everything perfectly right all at one time, then it's not worth doing. And it's like, yeah, but you're having this analysis paralysis. And so you have this all or nothing approach. You're overthinking it, and then you end up doing nothing, versus if you just like do it messy and just like, hey, I'm just going to do workouts at home and start there, you eventually get to the destination that you want. So I don't know where you're starting. Hopefully I kind of went in a span, but maybe that gives some people like where to go. And then if you are a beginner, you're like, hey, Brie, I'm in the gym, I'm doing stuff, like, where do I go? Go back to what I was talking about, like the intensity and the volume, make sure that's in check. If that's in check and you're like, I'm at the stage where it's like, I need to be better, strategic about the exercise I'm doing, the order that they're in, and all that. Again, I mean, I don't know if I can plug this in here or not, but I have my group training program where I take care of that for everyone. I do my group training program. I know there's other coaches out there that do group training programs as well, where they take care of that for you. Of course, there's like, I mean, I hate to say this, but I just have to. There's like the influencer-y type of people where it's just like they're doing these pretty things. And so if you can, look for someone who's like actually a coach, like not influencer turned writing you programs, but like is a coach first and maybe an influencer second, or is just a plain coach. You're probably going to get a better program if you approach it that way. So
yeah, definitely.
That. So
yeah, definitely. And I think as a good kind of very, very new person to somebody who might still be new, but a little bit more advanced. I think you gave
Yeah.
a good amount of like
Thank you.
insight on each of those.
Cool.
So covered that very well. But I think we'll wrap it up there. I think you answered so many great questions and there's a lot of good golden nuggets. And we even talked about like different myths and just a lot of takeaways
Yeah.
from this episode that a lot of people can learn from. So thank you so much for joining and letting me pick your brain. And if you want to, talk about what you do and how you help people and all your platforms and all the stuff, go ahead and you can give a little insight on where people can find you and engage with you.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for having me on the podcast. I am so incredibly honored to be on it. If you guys want to find me, like she said at the beginning, Brianna Ray Fitness, and Ray is spelled RAE and Brianna has 2 N's. That's primarily where I am. I mean, I'm a little bit on TikTok and like maybe I'll prioritize that more, but like go on Instagram. That's mainly where I am. I have all my information there, like in my little bio thing, like my application. I have the links for my group training. Now I do enrollment every 6 weeks. I don't know when this episode is going to be posted. And so my next enrollment's January 15th. If when this is posted, you missed that, I announce it all the time. So people know it'll open up another 6 weeks. It's when I enroll people into my program. So if you're looking for that, that's it. So I do one-on-one, nutrition and training. And then I also have a group program that's at a much lower cost, $29 per month. You get access to an app where you can track your weights, your reps. I talk about RIR, RPE, how to optimize your training. I do put it all in order for you. So you don't have to think about it. You just walk in the gym, you hit start, it's done. And I do it with you. Like, I'm not bullshitting you guys. Like, these are the workouts that I do. I did this program in my bulk. I did this program in my most recent cut, and I'm still doing it now in my maintenance phase. So like, this is actually what I use and what I do to build the muscle that I have and build my physique that I have. So that's my spiel. I'll just kind of leave it there.
Love that. Thank you again. Is there anything else that you want to add that we might not have touched on before?
No, I think if anyone has any takeaways where they're like, man, that was a good point, or like you're nervous to do a bulk or anything, you need something talking through, like shoot me a DM. I'm always in my DMs. I respond to all my DMs. So if there's anything, I just want someone to know, like if there's a question or something that popped up that really struck you and you're like, oh, I'd really love to pick Bree's brain more about this, or just need a little hype up, shoot me a DM. But other than that, I think that's all I got. So
Cool. Yeah. And like I said, I hyped you up a lot in the beginning. Definitely go follow her on Instagram. One of my favorite pages on Instagram, honestly, like not just saying that, it's amazing. And she just has so much good information there. So definitely go check her out on Instagram, check out her podcast. But that is it. Thank you again for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Health Club with Julia podcast. If you loved the episode, share the podcast and tag me, and subscribe so you don't miss any further episodes. If you have any questions, feel free to send me a DM. Thanks for being a part of the club. See you next time.